Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. I'm Trevor Lane, joined as always by Keith Smith, and we're back, rested, a little bit tanner, just a little bit, and ready to roll.
A
Keith,
little bit,
glad
Tanner.
to be.
Like you went away, but check out, I got the
Look
soccer
at
dad
you.
man
You got.
rocking already.
I was so worried on vacation about getting burned like one of the first couple of days and having it ruin, the rest of the
Yep,
vacation.
yep.
I was like, I was religious about sunscreen and all that kind of. You got more sun than I did, man. How did
And
that
yeah, well,
happen?
that's what happens when you spend every non-moment doing this at a soccer field. So
See,
that is kind
this
of how
is
it
why you got to
goes.
watch the YouTube version of this show, because otherwise you don't get to see Keith showing
Miss
off
it.
his farmer's tan
Yep,
like that.
that's it. Yeah, yeah. I soccer dad tan. I have not grown a crop in many a years. So when I get with our buddy Bryce and he gets me on a combine, then we can
Then
call
we'll
me.
call it a farmer's tan.
Yeah, then we'll call it a farmer's tan. So, but yeah, we're back. We appreciate everybody who reached out, and there were several who were like, "Is everything okay?" And but Trevor was on vacation. I
Yep.
ended up having a medical procedure done. Everything's fine with that. But then I took a little bit of downtime too, and just a lot of stuff going on. But we're
Yeah.
back now, and we were just talking about it. We are not far from being back like 4 to 5 days a week.
Yep.
So we're really excited.
Let's go. Let's go. I can't wait. I know we've got a lot to get into here, but yeah, we are ready to roll. One of these days, Keith, when we have some extra time at the end of a show, we'll do a little scheduled nonsense. I've got some stories from my trip
Let's go. Yeah, I
be fun
can't
to
wait.
tell.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, we will
but today
definitely do
I
some
know
of that.
we've got
But
a lot of stuff.
today is jam-packed, yeah, with topics.
Let's go. All right. So let's start with the thing that everybody around the NBA has been talking about for weeks now, and that's the Kawhi Leonard situation with the Clippers, the cap circumvention case. This continues. Keith, I feel like this is the story I probably followed the most while I was, on quote vacation. I was still keep an eye on NBA news and everything, of course. But what aspects of, because I feel like there's so many different ways we can go in talking about this story. What aspects here do you want to hone in on?
Yeah, I think the big thing is it just like every new piece of news that gets shared, comes out, is reported, it seems to look a little worse for the Clippers and
Yeah.
Kawhi that something was going on here. Like it just is, there's too many instances now of Kawhi was owed X by this company aspiration, and then the Clippers made a payment, or someone through the Clippers, or however you want to think through it. Someone related to the Clippers made a payment that covers that money owed to Kawhi plus a little extra. And those are the things that I think are really going to be bad. Like if anybody listens, Zach Lowe's done a couple of really in-depth podcasts on this, and he actually kind of flipped with that latest news of that extra payment that the Clippers
minority owner of the Clippers
made. Yeah. And he was like, this is just, now he's like, it's too much. And John Hollinger, who worked inside an NBA front office for a number of years, wrote like, if the NBA gets there, they're going to hammer the Clippers with this. There's been all kinds of things written. A lot of the stuff we talked about before our little hiatus was, it's all still in play. Loss of draft picks, fines, suspensions, voided contract. I will say I've talked to a number like cap specialists around the league that are like, their teams are kind of, we're not sure we want the contract voided, because they're like, that could actually kind of help the Clippers in a way if it's removed. And they're like, now if they void the contract but make it so that there's still like a cap hold on the books, and the Clippers can't just create this massive amount of cap space, not so much right now, but more this offseason and forward. That's what they're like, that doesn't seem really fair. And a lot of people are saying it's also not fair if some team that's just kind of hanging out with an open roster spot and the ability to do so adds Kawhi Leonard on a minimum contract on the eve of training camp. So it's kind of where all this is still going. Nothing more concrete than Adam Silver saying we're looking into it, but that's kind of where we're at.
And I think you hit the nail on the head that everything that comes out, it just winds up looking worse and worse for the Clippers. We don't know exactly where this will land. One of the things that seems a bit, Unclear is exactly what the burden of proof is. Like how much circumstantial evidence is it where, like you said with Zach Lowe, where that the scale tips, and you say, okay, this is too much, circumstantial evidence to just be coincidence. And what is the NBA looking for? What do they need to see? Do they need a smoking gun, as it were, an email from Steve Ballmer saying, circumventing the salary cap and then outlining exactly how they're going to do it? Is that what they need? Or is it like the Clippers minority owner putting in money and then suddenly Kawhi's late payment is made? Like, if you stack up enough of that stuff, does the NBA get to enough to where they go, look, clearly something happened here that was not on the up and up, and we're going to have to, hammer this team because of it. I have seen a number of fans who are so and fans are not privy to everything. We're not privy to everything that's happening in this situation, but a number of fans that have said, look, if the NBA doesn't punish the Clippers for this situation, that have already decided that the Clippers, based on the information that's out there, did something underhanded here, that if the NBA does not, the ramifications of not punishing the Clippers would be worse than actually punishing them in this situation, the fallout from that, because of what it would imply about what teams could potentially get away with, and how would it cause fans to then look skeptically at future deals. I've seen fans tend to overreact, but I've seen some fans say they don't do anything here. I'm going to question whether or not I can really believe everything coming from the NBA. There's a lot at stake here with this situation. So I'll say this, Keith, to put a bow on this, the NBA's got to get this right. Whatever it is that they find, they have to get this right, and that has to happen. They must get this right, not just for this situation, but for leaving the trail in the sand that's going to be followed should anything like this come up in the future.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now, I will say there were a couple more pieces of news. Adam Silver was speaking at an event and was asked about it, and he basically said, we will get to the bottom of this. We will figure it out. So that's, I guess, good news in that context. Within that, Steve Ballmer reiterated, hey, I'm welcoming the investigation. Like, it'll prove like we're not there. And he then basically said, hey, these guys defrauded me as well. And, this is a huge problem. And he goes, it's not going to be fun to go through, but the important thing is the way this works, we have to go through it. And then Baxter Holmes for ESPN, in a piece that came out today, said it's kind of obviously related to this, but even independent of it, the Clippers are done building around Kawhi Leonard. Like, this is like they are now ready to move forward with whatever. And I think all their moves this offseason, we've been talking about that before any of this circumvention stuff even came out. Yeah, everything is set up for the Clippers to kind of, let's see what we can do over the next couple of seasons. And then after that, they're going to hit a hard reset and really reset the organization. So last thing I will say on this is, a lot of people keep saying, but legally, this is not a court of law. This is the NBA's rules. They do not, they have separate rules. And one of the things that is written is circumstantial evidence is enough to punish a team, player, however they want to do it. They do not need, like you said, a written note that says circumvent the cap to pay Kawhi Leonard. They don't have to have that. If they believe, hey, no matter what you say, we don't believe you, this is fishy enough that we're going to go this direction, they can do that. So you just got to be very cautious with people throwing out there like, but that's not how it works. Like, in a court of law, this is not a court of law.
Right, exactly. And so we got to remember that this is the NBA.
There it is. You've got the cap sheet up. After the 26-27 season, it's Ivica Zubac at roughly $21 million. And then Yannick Conan Niederhauser, who was their first round pick this year, at $3 million. So let's call it $24 million. That's all they have on the books. Like, that is it. And they'll do some stuff over the next 2 years that will probably change that some, but they are geared up for a very hard reset. And also, what I'll call too is, look at the age column. It is a lot of guys who are in their mid to late 30s. So clearly this team is set up for the short term, and then that reset, like I said.
I'll tell you what, I don't know. Obviously, Aspiration is no longer a sponsor of the Clippers. I don't know exactly who the Clippers sponsors are at this stage, but If Icy Hot is not a sponsor of the Clippers right now, they are missing a huge
I was going to go with
opportunity.
Ben Gay, but yeah.
Ben Gay, yeah.
Yep.
Right. They absolutely need to. Okay. Let's talk about the other big story that's been bouncing around. That's everybody's been keeping an eye on the Jonathan Kuminga situation. We'll get to that next. Great presenting sponsor for the front office show is Sleeper. If you've ever heard of the Sleeper app, here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more. Live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats, plus a news feed. This is so critical for me. Get lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams, a real-time chat you can engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA season. So download the #1 sports app today and experience it for yourself. If you can see, I've made a couple of season-long picks there. Some deep cuts. We've got Tyler Warren for the Indianapolis Colts. NFL season is here. I've got him more than 550.5 receiving yards. I think he's going to be a big part of that offense. And then Zach Charbonnet, essentially, I'm saying I don't think that Ken Walker is going to wind up staying healthy all season. I've got him more than 499.5 rushing yards. I think the opportunities will be there for Charbonnet. So click that link in the description down below. Use the promo code CAPSPACE and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, Jonathan Kuminga. The Warriors still stuck, but the clock is ticking here, Keith, and a decision has to be made sooner rather than later. As we get closer and closer to training camp starting up, we'll talk about the Josh Giddey deal in just a minute. Of course, Cam Thomas factors into all of this when we talk about whether or not Jonathan Kuminga should actually sign the qualifying offer with the Golden State Warriors, reporting out there just the other day. I don't know exactly what day because I'm a little mixed up on my days right now. I crossed too many timelines, but time zones, I mean. But when we look at this situation, the Warriors reportedly up their offer to a 3-year deal with a team option at the end of that. They really want to make sure that there's a team option on this deal. Reporting also out there that Jonathan Kuminga would be much more open to signing a deal with the Warriors if that was instead a player option. Where does this ultimately land? Kuminga's camp is essentially betting that the Warriors don't want to risk losing him for nothing, and they will budge. Meanwhile, the Warriors are betting that Jonathan Kuminga does not want to play for $8 million and risk that much money, and that he will ultimately budge. Kuminga will be on the Warriors most likely, unless I guess Sacramento comes in. There's some talk about maybe if Sacramento removes pick protections on a future pick, maybe there could be some kind of a sign and trade, which gets really tricky though with base year compensation. But
yeah,
where is all of this headed, Keith? Does anyone know at this point with Jonathan Kuminga?
I don't think we do know. To this point, it's Jonathan Kuminga's side has basically said, "Hey, either fully guaranteed, no options, or give us a player option." And we'll take about $10 million less per year. That was some of the reporting. And they said that's what having that control back on his side is worth to them. And the Warriors have basically said, nope, like we want you at the number we want you at. Now they did raise that up slightly, but I wrote about this in depth on Spot Track if anybody really wants to dive in, because there is the other component is the Warriors, the only team in the league who have not added a single player this offseason. They haven't signed a draft pick. They haven't signed a single free agent. Now we know Al Horford, D'Anthony Melton, Gary Payton II, Seth Curry, all these guys are rumored to be lined up.
Yeah.
But the Warriors have right now 9 players on standard contracts, and camps are coming up here. We're going to talk about that very briefly at the end of the show. Like this is getting to the point where like, we got to figure it out just to be able to have practices in the opening part of camp.
Right. We can't play 5-on-5 right now.
Yeah. This reminds me of like, I'm going to dip into my high school basketball times when high school basketball season in Massachusetts overlapped with the very end of football season. And the handful of the kids on the football team were still finishing. And like you're running your first practices, like playing 4-on-4 because we didn't have them there yet. To join the roster, knowing they'd be coming. But yeah, you've got it up on the screen over here on the YouTube side. That's it. That's what the Warriors have under contract right now. So they're limited to about $22 million-ish is what they can pay Kuminga fit in. Sounds like Al Horford for the taxpayer mid-level, and then minimums for the other guys to fill out the roster. That's about where they're at. Now, if Kuminga signed the qualifying offer, that changes things a little because that's about 14 more million. Then they could do some different stuff as far as signing guys. But it's a tricky spot. And Kuminga is, from some of the reporting, doesn't really want to sign the qualifying offer. The Warriors really don't want him to because then he gets the no trade clause. And this has been asked a lot. When you are on the qualifying offer, you cannot waive the no trade clause. You can always say, yeah, I'm fine being traded to Team X.
Yeah.
Like that's true of any no trade clause. But unlike other forms of signings, like Jackson Hayes, for example, waived his no trade clause when he re-signed with the Lakers. And that can be done. But when you sign the qualifying offer, you get it. There's nothing that can be done there because that's the terms of the qualifying offer. So in this case, he'd be $8 million with a no trade clause. That's barely anything towards salary matching for the Warriors side, and he would have full control. So they don't want that. He doesn't want that, but he sounds very committed to, I'm not signing anything that gives the Warriors control beyond a year or two out. Like, I really either pay me or give me control. And if you'll give me control, I'll take less. So that's why we're still stuck here in this holding pattern.
He clearly doesn't believe that the Warriors are the best place for him to be in terms of basketball, in terms of on the court. They're the best fit for him. It would be different, I think, if Jonathan Kuminga felt like he would reach his potential as a Golden State Warrior. I don't think that is the case here, and that's part of all of this. He knows that, and I think the Warriors probably have an understanding. Although I do buy that there are those within the Warriors organization that are believers in him. I do buy that owner Joe Lacob is a fan of his and all of that. But the overwhelming sentiment seems to be that both the Warriors and Kuminga understand that their futures lie elsewhere. When and how that happens, I think is what's up in the air right now. And for the Warriors, the how is preferred to be via a trade where they recoup assets. For Jonathan Kuminga, he's not going to be as concerned about whether or not the Warriors get something back for him. He's mostly concerned with, am I getting the contract I think I should be getting? And if I'm not, am I at least getting someplace where I can earn the next contract that I think I should be getting, and a place where I can sort of spread my wings. And that's where this whole thing sits. When is the drop dead point? Is it September 30th or is it October 1st for him to officially pick up the qualifying offer?
Yeah, there really isn't one. Like it is. Like, you can still do things with the qualifying offer into October. The challenge becomes once you get there, then it becomes you need to kind of work out a different kind of contract. Like, he would just stay a restricted free agent. The Warriors would still have his rights and full control. He can't just go sign anywhere else. He could go sign outside of the NBA, but clearly that's not a path he's going to take. My guess is by the time we get to training camp for the Warriors, which is a little under 2 weeks now, he'll either be gone and off to another team via sign and trade. He'll have worked out a when I say long-term, at least 2 years or more deal with the Warriors, or he'll have signed the qualifying offer. I don't think we'll get to camp and this will still be lingering over the team and over Kuminga. I will say this, that you mentioned the Kings. They're in that report about the Kings. The Kings reportedly said they believe that's where he wants to be. He wants to be with them. So there are, like you mentioned, base year compensation, which without getting too deep into it, that essentially means Kuminga gets anything more than a 20% raise on his next deal. He only counts at 50% of his salary for the outgoing side on the Warriors. So let's just say it was 30 million. That would only be 15 million. And that gets a little tricky. But remember, the increased matching bands come into play here in a trade. So the Warriors can up that by about 8.5 million that they could take back. Now that could cause some hard cap issues that they'd have to sort through, but they should be okay. And one of the players that was mentioned was Malik Monk in the past. That's a number they can get to without any real worry. There, if they wanted to do that, then like you said, the draft pick compensation part comes into play as well. I think he'd be a great fit in Sacramento. I think I would want to see what comes next as far as DeMar DeRozan and
There'll be other
Keegan
moves to make for
Murray. There's
sure.
other stuff they'd have to do, but I think he'd be, pretty good fit there. And then you go forward. It's crazy because he's been in the league a year longer than Keegan Murray, or maybe 2 years longer, but he's 3 years younger than Keegan Murray is, which is, just gives you still a sense of, not that Keegan Murray's old, he's 25, but Kuminga's only 22. So it's just kind of interesting with that. But yeah, this one is still to play. And like I said, there's more than just Kuminga here, because you got these other guys that are just hanging out.
Right.
And people have said, well, why don't they just move forward? The reason they don't want to move forward is, let's say they signed everybody and put themselves in a spot where the most they can give Kuminga is $22 million. Well, the Nets still have the ability, even we're going to talk about them in a minute, to still create a little bit of like 24-ish million in cap space without even doing anything too crazy. And the Nets may be like, well, we don't want to get involved in an offer sheet, but if we know we can get them because they can't match, then let's go. And that's
Right.
where it could be pretty tough.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where the Warriors don't want to put themselves in that spot. So we are still on Kuminga watch. We'll see what ultimately happens here. But the clock, it's ticking for them to figure
And
something
to
out.
be fair, Quentin Grimes as well. There's been no, like nothing has really come on. He posted a picture of himself in a Sixers uniform, and everybody got all fired up. I think that maybe happened while you were gone, and then nothing came out after that. So I think he was just posting a picture, and that was it. So yeah, so that one's still hanging out there too.
All right, let's jump over to one that actually did get done, and that's Josh Giddey, who re-signed with the Bulls. Keith, it's almost kind of funny because we have these situations where we say, when we're talking about a trade or something, like, man, this makes so much sense that it's not going to happen, that it won't work out. The number they landed on for Josh Giddey was what made sense all along.
Yep.
4 years, 100 million, so an average annual value of 25 million per year. Obviously, that's not the way it actually breaks down under the cap, but
well, we don't know yet, but yeah, very likely.
But roughly, right? I mean, but that's when we look at what Giddey was reportedly wanting, when we look at what the Bulls were reportedly offering, we said it for weeks. It was too close to not get done. Ultimately, they would compromise. Clearly, they met in the middle. They get it done. Josh Giddey will stay now with the Chicago Bulls. And Keith, I think this is the kind of deal that I believe offers not just a solid floor for Josh Giddey in terms of financially, but also I think there's upside here for the Bulls where it's definitely not out of the question, especially if he plays the way he did over the final few months of last season, for Josh Giddey to outperform this contract and for this to be a positive value. So I really like this deal. I really like it, especially for Chicago, if they buy that Josh Giddey is the guy that we saw to close out last year.
Yeah, it's very funny. I had tweeted out that Giddey wanted 30 million. The Bulls are offering 20 and it upped it to 22. And I was like, just meet in the middle, call it 25 and be done. And Bulls fans lost their minds because they were like, why do the Bulls have to give? This is unfair. Like, to the Bulls, they have all the leverage here. And it's like,
I think this is a good contract.
And for me, I'm like, this is fine. He's a good ball handler, good playmaker, good rebounder for his position. He is not a good defender. He's still not a good shooter, even if the shooting did improve last year. But you're getting a guy who can still kind of run your offense, be a big part of your team for 14, 15% of the cap. Like, I think that's fine. Like, I have no real issue with this. I still think 100 million is still this like sticking point for people where like, yeah, of course it's a ton of money, but in NBA terms, it's just not. If you're talking on a 4-year deal now, like you're talking again, this is 14 to 15% of the cap if they use the standard raise structure here. If they go a little bit differently, it's a little different, but it's still, you're in that range. And I think that's fine for Josh Giddey and what he is now. That's fine. And like you said, yeah, if the shooting does improve, they get the right players around him where the defense can be a little bit different, then all of a sudden it starts to turn into, man, this is actually a pretty solid deal for us going forward. Now, they've got other concerns. They want to re-sign Kobe White this summer. Let's see what they do with guys like Vucevic and Herter and Collins, who are all on expiring deals. I do think maybe because those guys are expiring contracts, there's more tradability there that they can move those guys. But yeah, I don't have a huge issue with this one for Giddey. I don't think it's any kind of overpay. I certainly don't think it's a massive overpay and a mistake by any means.
Are you saying you don't buy that he's actually a 46% 3-point shooter like he was post All-Star last year?
No, probably not. But even if you go back even
I don't
further,
either.
if you go back to like January, I think he was in like the high 30s ish. And maybe, I mean, and he was making some different ones too. He was making
Yeah.
some threes. He was making a handful of catch and shoot, some spot ups. So there's maybe, right? It doesn't always happen, but I'm not saying Josh Giddey's Jason Kidd, but Jason Kidd did figure out how to shoot. Now I've also been like, we can't always say Jason Kidd figured out how to shoot as an example that everybody will, but sometimes guys do. And if he figures that out, all of a sudden everything kind of changes, even with the lack of defense and the like.
Yeah, I mean, January, 37% from three. But then when we get, but look at that. Look at the jump here. You go from 10 points per game in January to 20 in February. And that continued again into March. And 54% from three. Like, that's not sustainable.
Yeah, on 5.5 attempts per game, though, which is a pretty big number, too. Yeah.
And everything jumped up. The assists jumped up, too. You went up 2 assists per game over that month. Then you went up to, he was almost averaging a triple-double in the month of March. Like, if there is any, and he actually did average, very, very small, only a 4-game month, but he did average a triple-double in the month of April.
Those last handful of games, there's a whole bunch of double-digit assist games.
Yeah. So
yeah,
if you believe he's even 80% of that, he's worth this contract, no problem.
Yep. Yeah, and I get Bulls fans wanted them to kind of, tear it to the ground and like let everybody expire and, maybe resign White and just have him and the kids and then move forward from there. But that was never going to be the play. They were always going to resign him. I do think it's good work that they didn't resign him at 30. Like they didn't give in, but meeting in the middle is how these things are supposed to go. And now we move forward, and the everlasting quest for the 8th seed continues in Chicago.
Oh God, Bulls fans hate you now. All right,
they're already
it's
happy,
the truth.
So.
The Nets making moves. Obviously, Cam Thomas picked up his qualifying offer. I believe we talked about that right before I left.
Yeah, we did
on vacation. But then we also have a little trade. They used their cap space in order to bring in Kobe Buffkin, who I was high on in the draft. But Keith, if draft picks don't pan out under this current CBA, I think teams are a little bit quicker than they used to be to move on from them.
You think so, especially if you're Atlanta, who has real goals, right? Atlanta was fine. They could have carried Kobe Buffkin and not had any issue. They weren't desperate to create a roster spot. They weren't over the tax or anything like that. They're well clear of the aprons, but just why not, right? If we can get off a little bit of money, create some more flexibility with a roster spot and with a little bit more tax space, let's go. They didn't get, the Nets gave them $110K in cash, which is the minimum you can send in a trade, and that just satisfies we're satisfying the trade requirements. So Atlanta, basically a straight salary dump for them, but good work. They didn't have to give up a pick to do it. Just here you go. We're not there. I do wonder with the Nets though. So you have Yegor Demin, you have Nolan Traore, Ben Saraf, all who have been on-ball guys, primarily in their career. Now you're adding Kobe Buffkin as another point guard. I have no problem with, hey, take shots, right? This is how Sean Marks built the team that got good pre-KD and Kyrie.
Right.
Was just by taking shots on cast-offs from other teams. But at some point it is like, all right, like, how are you going to play everybody? Like, not all these guys can play together. And
then some guys are going to be upset.
Yeah, exactly. You have a little bit of an out because Demin is a bigger guy. You could play him at the 3, quite a bit. So that gives you a little bit of balance there. But I don't have a problem. One other slight thing, they did waive Keon Johnson, who started 56 of the 79 games he played for the Nets last year. Kind of really got his career on track in Brooklyn. Still can't
for a Nets team that was like completely topsy-turvy with all these different lineups they threw together. That's like insane consistency.
Exactly. Yeah. He was absolutely their rock. Somebody Jordy Fernandez counted on quite a bit in his first year as the head coach. And it's funny because I was talking with someone in the league and I was like, maybe he's just gonna be too helpful. And like I said, they have a million guards. So out he goes. And I think I would be very cautious on investing a lot of money in Brooklyn Nets player jerseys, outside of
Yeah.
Demet. And I think it's Joman is how you say it. And I need to get that right, but I'll figure that out as we go. Outside of him, I don't know that I'd be investing a lot of money in the Nets jersey because I don't know how many of these guys are going to make it beyond the next few years with this team.
Go with the throwbacks. Go with the
Yep.
throwbacks. If you're going to get a Nets jersey, go with the old,
Yep.
the Jason
But
Kidd
go with
jersey
like a
or
New
something.
Jersey Nets throwback, like a Kenny Anderson
Exactly.
or Derek Coleman or one of my faves, Drazen Petrovic.
Oh yeah, that's always a good one to go with. All right,
Yeah.
let's go here. The Knicks fill out their camp roster, and Keith, an interesting situation here where a couple
Yeah.
of veterans, as things currently sit, not both of them can make the team. When we're talking about, particularly with Malcolm, I saw you were tweeting about the other day the Malcolm Brogdon signing. I am shocked that that's just a camp deal right now.
Yeah. And those guys they should be, there they are. They're all at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we count
And then
them
Landry
as zero
Shamet's
because
the
they're
other
on camp deals. So camp deals don't count towards the cap, tax, or aprons unless they actually make the roster. So the Knicks have 6 guys on camp deals. They also had 2 other guys, Dink Pate and Byron Wesley, who they brought in. No, that's not the right name. Bryson Warren, sorry, that they brought in on camp deals, but they did the whole sign and waive with those guys because they're really trying to line them up for the G League. But everybody else here, outside of Mohamed Diawara, these are all NBA veteran guys who've been in the league for 4 years or more. So Brogdon, Shamet, Len, Matthews, and Ryan are all been in the league for a number of years. Some of them double digits in there. And these guys are basically competing for, as it stands today, 1 roster spot. And the reason why it's 1, the Knicks are about 3.7 million under the second apron, which they're hard capped at. A veteran minimum contract right at the very top of the screen. You can see Jordan Clarkson, who's on a vet minimum, is 2.3 million. So that's 2.3 million. There's not enough room for 2 vet mins under their hard cap unless they move off another salary. Now there's been rumors of maybe they could trade Tyler Kolek or Pacom Dadier. Maybe one of those 2 guys could be traded. Then that would free up more room if they dump them into cap space somewhere or into an exception. They both make barely, less than 3 million. So that's very easily acquirable for any team. So that could be a way that plays out. But we're in a spot here with the Nets where they can only keep one of these veteran guys right now. Then they still need to get to 14 players, much like a year ago where they were playing the game of sign Matt Ryan for a week and then cut him and bring him back and do this and that. They may be in that spot again. Or what they could do is, whether it's Mohamed Diawara or somebody else, as long as they were a Knicks draft pick, they can sign them and they count for the actual rookie minimum. If it's an undrafted player, they count as the rookie minimum towards the cap, but towards the tax and the aprons, they count at the 2-year minimum amount. And that's just basically to keep teams from loading the back end of the roster with a whole bunch of undrafted guys and getting out of paying players. So you got to be very cautious with that as well. So I don't think this roster is by any means done. I think there's a lot more shuffling that'll happen here on let's call it the back half of the Knicks roster, but a bunch of interesting names here that are coming into camp.
All right. Speaking of camp, training camp's open next week.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah,
That's
next
exciting.
week. So because a couple of people were like, no, it's the 30th. Because I said this on a radio spot, and the people who heard it hit me up. Next week, the Nets, the Knicks, who we've talked about today, the Sixers, the Pelicans, and the Suns all have media day on the 23rd and then the 24th. So a week from today, as we're recording this, on the 17th, they all get to open camp because they are all headed overseas for a portion of the preseason. So if you're headed overseas for a portion of the preseason, you get to open up camp a week ahead of everybody else. And they're all headed
around the league.
So yeah, right. They're headed to, some are headed to Europe, some are headed to Asia. I think the Suns or Pelicans, one of them is going to Australia. So as long as you're headed overseas, you get to open a week ahead of everybody else because you lose some time with travel, as you're well aware. And then so that's why they give them that week jump. But 2 weeks from today, everybody will be in camp. They'll be practicing, and everybody will be going crazy.
Let's go. I'm so excited. Season is back. Finally, last thing we got, a quick shout out for EuroBasket, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome.
Germany, Dennis Schroeder, Hall of Famer, Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah, Dennis Schroeder is going to be a Hall of Famer. 100%.
Yeah, he's going to be.
100%.
Not because
not
people look at what he's done in the NBA and say, what do you mean he's a Hall of Famer? He's been a role player in the NBA. He's actually been really good in the NBA, but because of what he's done internationally, he's going to wind up being Hall of Famer. Turkey winds up getting
EuroBasket MVP and a World Cup MVP.
Yep.
Like that's, he's going to the Hall of Fame.
Hey, we talk about, Olympic Melo, Euro Dennis Schroeder.
International
Germany,
Schroeder is
international Schroeder, Germany Schroeder, whatever you want to go with. He's fantastic.
Somebody suggested to me that the Magic should have signed him and just put him with Franz Wagner and Mo Wagner and Tristan da Silva and just been like, this is actually Team Germany. And then proceeded to just plan a parade because apparently that's how it would go.
That's the way it would go, I guess. Turkey got the silver medal. Greece getting the bronze, and a pretty crazy comeback from Finland that almost worked. In that third place game, but
cool for those three countries too. Turkey's had success in this tournament in the past, but it's been a little while. They were like maybe a medal thought was kind of where it was thought going in, and great for them to break through. They almost got the gold. They almost beat Germany. Greece, this is the first medal Greece has won with Giannis. If you got to see him after, completely overcome by emotion for bringing a medal home for Greece, and then talked about and I'm not done. I want more for Greece, which is super cool. And then Finland, without being insulting, they've done nothing on the international level, and now are getting to fourth place is incredible. Lauri Markkanen was unbelievable in this tournament. And now you hope that is, let's stop messing around in Utah and actually let the dude play, because I don't think teams are going to need to. I think there's enough actual teams trying to win games that you don't need to be playing the games of sitting guys and all that stuff. Just let him play. Let him go out there and do his thing. Go ahead.
I will make a prediction here. I'm going to say that if Markkanen continues to play the way he did for Finland in the NBA this season, he had a bit of a down year last year. If he plays like that for the Utah Jazz, he will not be on the Utah Jazz to finish this year.
There you go. Let's see.
I think the opportunity will be there to move him, and someone will go get him.
Yeah, I agree with that. Could definitely be. I will also say this, just last thing for Finland, Mika Murinen. He is the one who, if you watch their highlights, he's the kid who is covered in tattoos. It has kind of long hair. He's young. I think he's 19. He's going to be an NBA player. He is now firmly on the radar of scouts and everybody. They already knew him, but they were the way this kid performed, he stepped up and made big shots throughout the tournament for Finland. He sounds like he's going to come play college ball for probably, I'm going to guess, only a year in the U.S. and then probably put himself into the draft. We'll see how that comes together. But this kid is he's a really, really interesting guy for the draft. But really, really good stuff out of EuroBasket. It was an awesome tournament, super competitive, super high level. I talked with multiple teams throughout the course of the last couple of weeks while it was being played out, and they were basically to a man saying, this is why we don't mind our guys playing. Yes, you don't want Bogdan Bogdanovic suffering a serious injury. That's a concern. But they're the reps these guys get, these are huge and can sometimes really catapult guys into having, big time NBA seasons. So, let's see where it goes. Alperen Şengün, all-star last year, he's going to push for all NBA this year. I would not be surprised, especially with where the Rockets look like they're poised to go.
100%. 100%. All right, everybody. We appreciate you being here. We're happy to be back. We can't wait to be back fully when we're going to be going full time just about every day of the week. But we appreciate all of you. Please make sure you do hit the subscribe button over on the YouTube channel. Follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts as well. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.